it's something that no parent ever wants to hear. It was terrifying, to be honest. It was just, didn't know how to deal with it, didn't know what to think, didn't know what to say, and it was terrifying. I think it was one of fear more than anything else, fear of losing your child. We noticed a little spot on his forehead. It was more like a tiny lump that was quite hard, and it kind of stayed for a couple of days, so we thought we'd get it checked. And they said they'd take a biopsy because they thought it was some kind of skin condition. And they said, we'll get the results in a few days, come back then. So in the intervening period, lots more of these bumps came, and his head was a bit like a golf ball because obviously he didn't have much hair as a baby. And then we went back for the results, and they said, well, it's this skin condition that we thought, so that's good. I said, you say that. I said, but I think this kid's become really unwell, so in the last few days, and his glands, and they went, okay, let's have a look. So they took off his clothes, and I'll never forget it. The two doctors that were there just looked at each other, and they turned around and they said, I'm sorry, but this looks to be something much more serious. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, it looks like leukemia. So leukemia, I thought, well, I knew that it was a blood cancer, and I knew nothing else, but I knew that was terrifying. So obviously we broke down, his mother and myself, and then they said, we need to do loads of tests, we're going to get you into Great Ormond Street, and we were whisked here. We were in the back of an ambulance an hour after seeing them, and then it was late at night, I remember, by the time we actually were given the results of the blood test and stuff that confirmed what it was. So I don't know, it was midnight or something. Within a few hours of taking our kid to see the doctor, we were told that his chances of survival weren't very good. But somehow we didn't. He got through. I think 2 or 3 times we were told that they thought it'd be unlikely that he'd make it through the night. And that again was grim. But there were also a lot of ups, with each treatment. Then they get rid of the disease, and then this thing, and you go through many ups and downs, as other parents that have been through this will tell you. But we were one of the lucky ones. But there were other parents on the wards that George was on that their children didn't make it, and that's why you never get too triumphant when you've been through an experience like that. I mean, George was so small; he was 2 months old when he came in. So I remember they had to set the platelet count was flat. They had to pump him with loads of blood, pump him with loads of platelets, pump him with loads of chemo. He had so much fluid going into his body. He actually just looked like a beach ball, and to see that was just harrowing. I didn't know much about it at all. I just knew it was some kind of blood cancer. I knew nothing beyond that, because it never affected me in my life. But you learn pretty quickly. You certainly learn pretty quickly. But the treatment then was, it's changed a little, but there's still lots of similarities. You basically whack them with loads of treatment and chemotherapy, and then try between each course, try and keep them alive, because you don't just kill the bad cells, you kill the good blood cells as well with chemotherapy, and then then your count's really low, and you're very vulnerable to colds or flu or pneumonia, which he had once, and so it's a really, really tough thing to go through.